welcome back to my channel. My name is Mel Chadwick and today I just wanted to share with you how I got on with my Polpeor Artist Residency. For those who watched my last video, I talk about what I was going to be doing because it was scheduled over the time when we were in lockdown and it meant that I couldn't be there in person. I still wanted to treat it as if I was going to be there, and so every day I set myself a challenge to work in my sketchbook and then also produce a postcard as well as working in a zine. So in this short video you'll see day by day what I did, what the theme was, and you'll just basically see me working away. If you have any comments or thoughts on the project in itself, please just leave them below. So here is what I produced every day. On the first day, I just really wanted to focus on the place that I was going to be drawing. The place is called Polpeor, so I decided for my first sketch that I would draw 3 landmarks that were around that area, and the first one is obviously going to be the gallery itself. Polpeor Gallery is really a tiny little brick hut with a tin roof. Or I think it does belong to the National Trust, but it is being kind of managed by another artist. He lets it out then to artists throughout the year to take up residency for a week. It's a real shame that the gallery isn't open at the moment and that artists haven't got that opportunity to kind of be there and talk to passers-by and obviously people who would be interested in buying the work. Another building that I've also drawn is the old lizard lifeboat station, and I'm going to be focusing on buildings in another day, but I wanted to still mark this on the map as it's quite a significant building. And then there's also the Lizard Lighthouse, which dominates the horizon and is just a bit further along from Polpeor itself. So I really enjoy drawing maps. Those who follow me know I love maps and being able to clearly show where everything is. And so this is day 1. On day 2, the subject was rock, and I concentrated on what was beneath my feet. The fascinating thing about the lizard is that it is made up of different rock formations, and this influences what type of soil is above it and also then what grows in that soil. It was pretty fascinating actually to find out the different types of rock. There was Manowar gneiss, which is spelt Gneiss, so I think it's pronounced gneiss, something like that. And that rock is the oldest on the peninsula. It's 500 million years old. And you can see from Polpeor, you can see a couple of outcrops of the rock on the horizon, and a lot of birds like to hang out on it. You then have mica schist, which is a darker rock and it's got bands of silver mica in it. Then you have hornblende schist. It's got a high content of black or green crystal. And then bastite serpentine. And a lot of the lizard is made up of serpentine. Day 3, I focused on the plants that grow around the lizard. As I said, on day 2, I discovered what kind of rocks there were. And so day 3 is kind of related because the type of rock influences what wildflowers grow. It's quite fascinating to think about that and realise that it means this is a very unique habitat, because you're not going to find it replicated anywhere else really, because of the type of rock that makes up the lizard. So I discovered a couple of botanists who were influential in naming and finding out the different flowers. We had John Ray, who is the father of botany in England, and he discovered Cornish heath and autumn squill and fringed rupertwort and wild asparagus. He lived from 1627 to 1705. And then another man who was also influential was the Reverend C.A. Johns, and he lived from 1811 to 1874, and he discovered the upright clover and wrote a book called A Week at the Lizard in 1848, and it was his memoir of the lizard. And he wrote a quote which I felt would be nice to base my flower illustrations on, and it is, "If I throw my hat on the ground, wherever it lands, there will be at least 10 species of wild plant underneath." And I guess that just showed how many different plants there are in this habitat that you wouldn't find anywhere else. So it was just fascinating just to spend some time researching the flowers and drawing them all as well. My focus for day 4 was the buildings, and the main building that I focused on was actually the old lifeboat house station. It was built in 1914. The one that you see down on the kind of quay was built in 1914, but this is actually the third one built in that place, because the first one was situated just further up on the ramp, but was unsatisfactory because of the hairpin road down to the water, and made it very hazardous for men and trying to go out and rescue people. The second one was built in 1885 lower down in the cove to house a larger lifeboat, and then the final one, which is the one I drew, which is built in 1914. It's quite amazing to see the kind of shell of the building. Although you can't go in the 1914 one, you can look around the one that was built further up in 1885. And at the moment, the skeleton of it is, you've just got a really beautiful view looking over the sea, with obviously the glass is all gone, and you've just got the window frame. It's a very rusty orange window frame, and the contrast between the blue of the sea and the orange makes for a really nice composition. Yeah, eventually the RNLI closed all of the lifeboat stations in 1958, and they then moved them around the cove to Kilcobban. Day 5, I focused on the seabirds that inhabit the space Some of them are native, and then some of them come and visit, migrate there. They're predominantly cormorants and shags, and one of the rocks is actually called Shag Rock, because that's the one that they all like to sit on and dry out. There are all sorts of different birds that come and gather. It's a real haven for birds, and lots of bird watchers probably would get excited about the different ones that are here. So you've got gannets, herring gulls, black-headed gull, fulmars, which began breeding here in 1953. You've got manx shearwaters, oyster catchers, and lots of other little birds. I focused on the butterflies and bugs that tend to dwell around the area, all influenced again by the type of flowers. You can see actually the knock-on effect. So the type of rock will influence the soil will influence the flowers will influence what bugs and butterflies gather around, and then that will influence beasts further up the food chain. You can just see how it's all connected. So you have quite a few different butterflies that I hadn't really heard about. So you've got a marsh fritillary, got a green hair streak, silver studded blue, 6-spotted burnet moth. I would love to see that one in the flesh because it has such bright colours. And you've got small pearl bordered fritillary, and then you've obviously got your honeybees and bumblebees, and then little beasts and beetles and bugs, and all of them play a part in pollination and helping pollinate the area. So day 7 is the final day, and I focused on Tribulus farm, and it's a National Trust farm. So the farm is stationed at the most southerly point. So the Amis family farm the land, and cattle and sheep graze the pastures, and they do their bit to keep the grass and the gorse down. Peas and vetches have been specially planted as pollinators, and they're rotated with grass, chicory and plantain. I've met Rona, who's one of the farmers, and she's very conscientious of how she farms and how they farm the land. They very much see the importance of keeping the balance of how things grow and how things influence each other. So they also have a farm shop as well, where they sell any of the meat that they farm, along with other supplies to the local village. As you can see, I've worked in my sketchbook, and I worked on a mini zine, as well as my daily postcards in black and white. And I've just really enjoyed taking time to explore and to draw and to really see a space and understand, I guess, what grows there and the ecology of it and how it's managed. It's fascinating, actually, that all of these different things, from the rock to the wildflowers and then what's farmed on it as well, it all is connected. And it's quite amazing, actually, to to see how everything is connected. And also is what makes the place special. I think it's just given me a greater appreciation of the environment and what is there in front of me, as well as how connected everything is. So I hope you enjoyed this little look into the week that I had done at Polpeor. There is a lot of work that I've produced, and I would really like to go through it and perhaps use some of that work in another project, or even produce like a little book that I can have printed and people can buy if they want to. For me, I've just really enjoyed drawing and using different mediums. I've loved using the combination of watercolour pencils with my watercolours, and to really give a bit more texture to the work. I've also really loved being able to play around with different formats and how I draw and divide the pages up. I think that's what I'd like to take from this time I've had, is that in my own sketchbook and my own work would be to think about how I use my pages, how I show work, and how I share work as well. It'd be great to hear about your projects, or if you've done a similar project where you've worked on location or you've kind of looked at all the different elements of a place. It would be great to hear about it, and maybe you can share what you did with the work that you produced. Maybe you produced an exhibition from it, maybe you put it into a book format. I'd love to hear your ideas anyway, because I think it might help me work out how I want to maybe present this project and take it a bit further. I will keep you posted though on what I do if I do anything. It would be great though to hear your thoughts and feedback. Until then guys, keep creating, and I will speak to you again very soon. Bye! Hello! Welcome to Creative Catch-Up,
a podcast where myself, Natasha Newton,
artist and illustrator, and me, Mel Chadwick,
illustrator and designer, will be chatting about running a creative business.
Each episode we'll be diving into a different topic that has come up in our own creative practice.
We'll be sharing our experiences, both the ups and downs, struggles and successes,
and hopefully give some advice that you'll also find useful.
So join us for episode 1 to hear a little bit more about who we are,
what we do,
and why we've decided to embark on this podcast journey.